How has the feedback been, ma'am and sir? Shiva Shakti ma'am or Vayadudai
Yes,
sir? Feedback for so long?
I will, I will add the panel. I will add the feedback is at final.
At the end. No, generally it's a good feedback you all have been getting.
Yes, yes.
Jasmine.
Ma'am, shall we begin?
Sister, 5 o'clock.
Shall we begin?
Yes, sister. Yes, sister.
Yes, Prabhi.
Okay, sister, thank you. I'll begin with. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you. I am Prabin Raj from Talentees. It's my pleasure to be the MC for today. Every form of education system is reformed during this pandemic, and it is not enough. Reform is no use anymore because that's simply improving a broken model. So what we need is not evolution, but revolution in education. We are on the third day of the International Conference on High Impact Teachers for today and tomorrow. Today's discussion topic is Creating a Positive Environment in the Classroom by Mr. Frank Riccio. He is an educator and yoga expert from New Jersey, USA. Well, let me take a minute to run through the agenda for today's program. The program will begin with the welcome address by Mrs. Alisha Talentees. Mr. Pradeep Antony, the co-founder of Talentees, will introduce the resource person for today, followed by the plenary session by Mr. Frank. And respected audience, you can post your questions in the Q&A option in the Zoom chat or in the YouTube comments box, and Mr. Frank shall try to address as many of them. Some of the audience will be also added as the panelist at the end of the session to make the program interactive as well. We have today Apurva and Yashini to give feedback session or feedback for the session. The program will end with the word of thanks by Mrs. Punita Nancy Talentees. We shall try to stick to the schedule as much as possible, but without much delay, I call upon Mrs. Alisha to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Alisha.
When you teach what you love and share what you know, you open eyes, minds, hearts, and souls to unexplored worlds. If your actions inspire children to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are indeed worthy of the title. That title we all live for. Yes, that title is teacher. Today, on behalf of all the teachers, I would like to thank all the students for wishing us on Teachers' Day and for showing immense love and trust in us. We are constantly motivated watching you learn and grow. Thank you for lightening up our lives with all your wishes on Teachers' Day. A warm good evening to one and all. It is a great privilege for me to welcome all of you to the third day of the 7 days International Online Conference on High Impact Teachers for today and tomorrow. I cordially welcome the Chief Patron, Professor N. Panchanatham, Vice Chancellor, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Patron, Dr. Sister Amali Anbarasi, Provincial, the Sisters of St. Charles Borromeo, Eastern Province, Chennai. Patron, Mr. Pradeep Antony, Co-founder and COO, Talentees, USA. Co-patron, Professor V. Balakrishnan, Registrar IC, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Co-patron, Sister Sabina Jose, Secretary, St. Charles College of Education, Madurai. Co-patron, Mr. Leo Fernandez, Co-founder and CEO, Talentees, India. Convener, Professor M. Govindan, Dean of Faculty, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Convener, Sister Catherine, Student Counselor, St. Charles College of Education, Madurai. Convener, Ms. Ramona Vishwanathan, Director, Talentees, India. Organizing Secretary, Dr. T. Sivashakti Rajamal, Assistant Professor, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai. Organizing Secretary, Dr. A. Vayadurai, Principal, St. Charles College of Education, Madurai. Organizing Secretary, Ms. Angel D. Silva, Associate Director, Talentees, India. A warm welcome to all the special guests. It is an honor to have you all here today. I would like to extend a cordial welcome to all the participants joining us here for the online conference. The resource person for today is Mr. Frank Riccio, educator and yoga expert, New Jersey, USA. He is a person with great insight and compassion. He is going to deliberate on creating a positive environment in the classroom. To be able to listen to you is an immense privilege, sir. Thank you. Let us proceed with the session and gain some perspective. to creating a positive environment in our classrooms as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, for that energetic welcoming all of us. Thank you once again. And as we move to the focal part of the program, I invite Mr. Pradeep Anthony to introduce Mr. Frank Riccio. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thank you, Praveen, and I'm really privileged to introduce Frank. Frank, after working at the management level for a transportation firm in Port Newark and Port Elizabeth, New Jersey for 8 years, Frank decided to return to school to pursue a career in teaching. Leaving a high-flying job, he wanted to get into teaching. So he gets back to school and he received his bachelor's in education and certification in early childhood and special needs. He accepted the position of a transitional kindergarten teacher with the Newark, New Jersey public schools. He taught the special needs class for 3 years until the grant ended, in which he was offered and accepted teaching as a regular kindergarten class, a position he endured to and stayed until retirement. During that time, administrators from other schools viewed and incorporated Frank's techniques for classroom management into other kindergarten classes. In addition, he created a free after-school kindergarten tutorial program and worked jointly with the Newark Museum to create an early childhood science program. After 25 years, Frank retired from the Newark Public School. Having practiced yoga for 20 years during his teaching career, he received his yoga teacher certification and went on to be trained in yoga therapy for trauma recovery and started his own business, Tall Pine Yoga. He has taught yoga to veterans coping with PTSD at the East Orange VA. And while working with the military at Fort McGuire, he was enlisted to teach yoga to the US Army wrestling team. He worked with those that have dealt with combat, life and death, and high stress traumatic situations, made him decide to approach the local police departments to create yoga program for men and women that protect and serve. Welcome, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation, Frank, and we look forward to your talk. Thank you once again, and over to you, Praveen.
Greetings to everyone.
He's going to say something.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, no problem. So, Pradeep, thanks for that beautiful and brief introduction. Now, please, Frank, you can take charge of the session. Please.
Sorry for stepping on your introduction like that. I apologize. Greetings to everyone. I'm honored and privileged to be in the company of such dedicated educators. I would like to thank the Tamal Nadu Teachers Education University, the St. Charles College of Education, and Mr. Pradeep Anthony of Talent Ease for presenting me the opportunity to be here today. I give congratulations to you all on your decision to make teaching, which is a selfless endeavor, your field of endeavor, one that requires patience, understanding, perseverance, and creativity.
So we're going to share screen now.
PACE, to create a positive environment in the classroom. PACE, an acronym which stands for purpose, attention, confidence, and evaluation. That which I'm going to impart to you today is not all inclusive, but it helps give a footstool or a path in the direction of which I hope will help you to create a positive environment in your classroom. Purpose. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent. This is a quote that I heard from the movie A Bronx Tale. It's where Robert De Niro talks to his son, says this to him because his son is starting to get enamored by the gangster life. This is what we need to incorporate into our own students, into our own lives. We each, as individuals, have a talent. Our talent as educators is to impart information to our students in such a way that it inspires them to continue on that path. Purpose. In order to do this, we need to know what our definite chief aim in our classroom is. Definite chief aim is taken from the book by Napoleon Hill, The Law of Success. He defines purpose as a definite chief aim. Now, it's very easy to say, well, my purpose is to teach children, but it goes much deeper than that. It needs to be grounded in something so much more deep. It can be brought about by inspirational readings, text, scriptures, maybe from the Eightfold Path, and Christianity, the Fruits of Spirit, the Yoga Sutras. It goes on and on. But our purpose needs to be grounded in something that will create value. We need to find and nurture the talent potential of each student. Find in each child, we need to aim what we are doing, what we are teaching, how we are teaching, to nurture whatever talent that child possesses. And each and every one of us as individuals has our own unique talent. Teacher responsibility, obligation to create in each student a sense of value. We need to incorporate into our teachings, into the atmosphere, into the environment of our classroom, a sense of value that each child is of value. There is nothing sadder next to wasted talent than that feeling of feeling less than. So it is our responsibility to make sure that each child feels that sense of purpose, wants to come into the classroom, knows that their lives mean something, that they're not just there to occupy a seat. To be understanding and accepting as opposed to tolerant. Tolerant means, in so many words, that there's something that bothers us, and either we can't or we don't want to change it, so we put up with it. In the classroom, in the way we conduct ourselves, in how we impart what we need to our students, we need to understand and accept where these children are coming from. Now, in my teaching career, I taught in Newark, New Jersey. The area I taught in Newark, New Jersey, the police referred to as the Wild, Wild West. The reason for that is because it was high poverty, high crime, drugs, street gangs. In fact, I became friends with some of the police officers in the area. And when I would tell them that I would go and visit some of the students and where the addresses were, they would say to me, they don't even like going into those areas. But it gave me the opportunity to really understand, even though that I was born and raised in Newark, I was raised in a different part of Newark. So it gave me the opportunity to really understand where these children were coming from, where their parents were coming from. Not to give them a free pass, not to be a bleeding heart, not to give them excuses for non-performance or lack of value in education, but to accept and know. So this way I can approach my teaching, my energy in a way that would create, again, a sense of value and a sense of nurturing. To teach to the best of your ability for yourself and for the benefit of those you serve. This, again, can be a purpose, and it should be a purpose. You could always add to these. But in the classroom, we need to do that. We need to ascertain that level so that we can be of most benefit to the children that have graced our classroom, to teach to the best of our ability, to not only know the material in and out, but to be able to impart that, to teach that in a way that these children are inspired. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go in a particular field that we teach. And I'm talking to those that teach a specific subject matter, or even those that teach in the elementary classrooms where you may be teaching a variety of subject matter. But where they are focused and where they can really, really feel the benefit of what it is that we are trying to teach. Attention, point of focus. How we bring our energy into the classroom to prepare as to what you would have accomplished in your classroom and in your students and in yourself by setting intentions that are positive. This is one of the ultimate that had really, really helped me to give my best in my classroom and to my students, to the parents, and to the community by having the intentions of being positive, of feeling good, of focusing on those things that are positive and not getting mired in what I couldn't do, what was negative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Visualization. Sitting down and just taking a few minutes and just imagining, using that great source that is your imagination, that is your creativity, of visualizing how you see yourself, your classroom, your students, your school. How is it that you would like it? Not what it is, but how you would like it to be, and focus and give emotion to that. And that's how our thoughts create so much energy. And that's how things start to move into a more positive direction. And for self, giving time to meditate. I know the excuses are, and it's true. Some of us have children. Some of us are taking care of older parents. We have household responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can, give yourself time, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you can manage, to just sit, breathe, focusing on the breath to help unclutter the mind. We are inundated with so much information, especially from the media that is negative. And that with the responsibilities of our family, our household, and then our teaching career. And it becomes very, very easy to get caught up in that negativity. By giving yourself time to decompress, to just breathe, and to just free yourself from all of that, not only helps your blood pressure, not only helps to help your cardiovascular system, but it also helps to just give yourself a feeling of ease and well-being. Now, as you observe the enormous differences in the effort that people apply and the results they achieve, you have to conclude that there is more to the equation of achieving than action alone. This is from another book that I was really fortunate to come across during my teaching career. The first one was Napoleon Hill's The Law of Success. This one, The Law of Attraction, and it really drove home the point of let me use the biblical term for it. What you sow, you reap. Basically, what you focus on, that is what is going to become more dominant in your world. That is what you're going to start to bring into your world. And as you become more negative, you'll find that the things that you need to do will become taking more time. They become harder to do. Whereas opposed to when you focus on that which is positive, that which makes you feel good, you start to see that even those things that were the most arduous become so much more easeful. You look around you. I'm sure you've seen people that it seems like it takes them no time at all to achieve, to get the results that they really want. And then there's others that it seems that they're constantly working harder and harder and harder. And it doesn't seem like what's the old saying? They're running just to stand still. And that is where the law of attraction, that's where focusing on that which is positive, to set the intentions, to visualize, to unclutter the mind, that what helps to turn time from your enemy to your ally. Now, what I'd like to do with all of you is just to give you an example of an intention. So it's only going to take a second or two, and just get comfortable. And if you wish to, close your eyes and just repeat mentally after me. No matter what I am doing, no matter where I am going, no matter who I am with, it is my dominant intent to see that which I want to see. That there is nothing more important than I feel good. I want it, I expect it, therefore it is. And if you give yourself intentions like that every day, as soon as you wake up, you'll find that over time, those things that displease you become less and less, and they become less of a part of your world. And those things that do please you become more and more and more a part of it. The worst thing that could happen is you try it, and after about 30 days or so, find that maybe it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, it just means that you're focusing on the lack. You're focusing on things that you don't want. So change your course. Focus on that which you want. Now, I do want to add one thing to the focus, one quick point. If you begin to find that you are focusing on that which is negative, change your course immediately. It's like a snowball going downhill. As you focus on things that are negative, it'll start to build. And just like that snowball going downhill, it'll start to get bigger, it'll gain more momentum, and it'll start to get more powerful. And then what you'll find is that you'll start attracting those people that are negative as well. And they will add to that negativity. And you can't fault them because you invited them into your world. So as soon as you start feeling negative, do your intention. Start looking around you. Focus on things that feel good, things that are positive. Now, confidence, trusting in self. This is established by finding joy in student and teacher accomplishment. When you see those things that are working in your classroom, things that when you see your students excelling, when you see the student that just wasn't getting it, and then all of a sudden there seems to be that little spark, and then they may not get entirely, but you see something moving in the right direction. That you focus on. That is joy. That builds your confidence. That makes you know, that makes you trust in self. Focus on your strengths as well as weaknesses. Now, I used weaknesses only because that's a term that is very, very familiar to us. What I like to say in substitute of weaknesses is those things that you have yet to be proficient in. Now, of course, there's things that we are very strong in. And the things that we are not strong in are those things that we tend to try to avoid. Funny thing, in the yoga classes that I teach, the poses, the asanas that people love to do are the ones that are easy. The ones that they really dislike are the ones that are hard. So why are they hard to them? Because one of two reasons. They are hard because they don't practice it. And then they don't practice it because it's hard. So that's what we do with those things that we are not so proficient in. So as you focus on your strength, focus on those things that you are not as proficient in and gain proficiency in that. Be uplifting. Be the person that other people want to gravitate to. Be the person that other people wish to seek out. Always a confidence builder. Always, always. When you have people that are gravitating to you, that want to be with you because you are uplifting, you are joyous, you want growth, you want to see yourself succeed as well as others, you'll find that people gravitate to you. And seek out and emulate those that are successful. When we see people that are proficient, people that are successful in whatever area, emulate that. Take what's positive of what they're doing. Now, not everything they're doing is going to be positive. Sometimes it's not. But focus on that which has made them successful. And seek it out, emulate it, and incorporate it into what you're trying to do. The mastermind, that comes from Napoleon Hill's The Law of Success also. Now, what he found was that those that were successful didn't know everything there was to know about everything. They failed more times than they succeeded. However, one thing that they really had in common was that they understood that they didn't know everything there was to know about everything. So what did they do? They found the people that knew what they didn't, and they utilized those people to make themselves successful. So socialize, dialogue, exchange ideas with others who are uplifting, joyful, knowledgeable, and supportive. And those that want growth, and those that want growth for not just themselves, but for students, in order that they both can succeed. Now, one thing I want to impart very quickly is that the more that you seek out these kind of people, the more you will find that they will want to seek out you, because they find that you are of that same mastermind, that you want to be those that are successful and that you want to be successful yourself. Evaluate. This is a continuation of the creative process. Revisit what you've done on a daily basis, whether interactions with students, parents, colleagues, or how a lesson went. Utilize others, as in the mastermind, in your evaluations. Continue to educate oneself and know that there's always something new to learn. One thing I used to always do was at the end of the day, whether I spent an hour or more or whatever in the classroom, cleaning up, setting up, or what have you, I always took the time to just go back and think about what happened during the course of the day. Something I said, something I did, something I didn't say, something I didn't do, how I interacted with others. Could I have said something a little bit better or phrased it a little bit better? Could I have interacted with a student and maybe done something a little bit different to get that child to understand what I was trying to impart to them? Utilizing others is a great way to evaluate where you are at. Sometimes we go from one extreme to the other. Sometimes we give ourselves too much praise, and sometimes we're overcritical. Overcritical is something that I had to overcome. No matter how good of a job somebody told me I did, I always came up with reasons why I could have done better, which is good in a way. However, it can be self-defeating. So you got to find that balance. And others, again, mastermind, those people who want growth, those people who want you as well as themselves to succeed because they see in you what they see in themselves, which is that they want the best. They want their children, and I say children because that's what I used to refer to the students in my classroom. They want their students to reap the benefit of what they are trying to instruct. And also know that there's something always new to learn. Always something out there. It helps you to be fresh, to not be stale. It's easy once you start getting into that one vibe, that one flow, that, oh, this is working, and then you continue exactly the same way. But as you go along, find out new strategies. Of course, know where those sources are coming from. You want to know that they're reliable sources. But seek out new strategies, new ways of teaching the same thing, and incorporate that into your classroom. Oh, I just said the same thing. I was a little ahead of myself, sorry. Each year, develop new ideas and strategies to make the curriculum and the exchange of ideas exciting and fresh. One thing that's easy to do, to fall into, is that most of the time, you're going to be teaching the same thing. However, your students are new. And it's very easy to fall into this pattern of, well, why should I change what I'm doing? Because the students that are coming in, they never were taught by me before. So this is new to them. So I'll just do the same thing. And that might be okay for a little while, but after a while, if you continue to do that, as I said before, you'll get stale and you'll get bored. And there won't be this positive, wonderful, free-flowing energy in your classroom. And your students will pick up on it. And when they pick up on it, they will start to get bored. And it doesn't matter if what end of the spectrum the students are, whether they're very proficient, whether the middle, or whether they're at the far end and need supplemental help. Bored is bored, and they will become, excuse me, I just lost my chain of thought. They will become behavioral problems. So you want to keep everything as new and exciting as possible. Always remember that there's no place within you where creativity does not exist. Your imagination combined with your intent are your greatest tools. We are all individuals, us, our students, and within us, there's this great creativity that no one else has. Utilize that. All the things that you have learned, all the strategies, the subject matter, and what have you, all of that, but take into consideration your own creativity, your own unique way of getting that across. Bring that energy, bring that positiveness, bring that flow into your classroom. Now, not only preparedness, not only having a plan, the tools to implement that plan successfully, but the ability to adjust and rise to any occasion. And that's where your imagination, that's where your positive energy, that's where your uniqueness comes in. Now, one thing I used to hate to do was lesson plans. And I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't need a piece of paper to tell me, but that's what I had to do, and that was it. So with lesson plans, as you follow it, what you'll find is that everything looks good on paper. You could write the best lesson plan in the world, the best objective, the way of implementing, how you're going to evaluate how if that objective was successful. And then you start teaching it and it seems to fall apart. That's when, again, your imagination, your uniqueness, your ability to be able to move and adjust comes into play. So you always have to be prepared for that some lessons, as good as they look on paper, sometimes they go over as like a lead balloon. So you have to be able to move accordingly. Don't just, sometimes we get mired in that this is what I said I'm going to do and that's it. And then nobody reaps any benefit from that. You don't feel good about it. Your students haven't gotten across what it is that you wanted them to achieve, and nobody feels good. So make sure that you're always willing to do that bit of adjustment. And last but not least, the places you'll go. Now, this is where I'm going to bore you for a minute or two and talk more about myself. And this title, Oh, the Places You'll Go, this is from a Dr. Seuss book, which I used to read to my students. I used to love this because it basically gives them a roadmap of how life can be. But in the end, as it says at the back of the book, this book is 98 3/4% guaranteed to inspire. The rest is up to you. So with that, I'd like to just give you, I wanted to just give you my story. Why did I move from management in a transportation firm, which was a very good position? I was happy there, and then decided to leave and move on and go back to school and get my teaching degree. Well, there came to that point where I felt that even though I was happy there, good job, that there was something within me that said to move on. That inner voice, meditation helps with that. And so I gave my notice and I left, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I was unemployed, didn't have the slightest clue in what direction my life was going to go. But I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe that we are just boats on an ocean, which is the universe, and just being cast about, that we are in control of our own reality, of our own world. And so in that, one day while I was unemployed, my sister asked me to drive her to one of the local bakeries, which I did. And I was sitting in the car waiting for her. And as I was waiting, I happened to see that there was this little boy with, I'm going to assume was his grandfather. And the grandfather bought the little boy a hot dog. There was a hot dog truck there. If you don't know what a hot dog is, I apologize. Google it. It's very popular here in the US. Anyway, so after the grandfather gave the little boy his hot dog, he turned around and started to talk to this woman. In watching the boy, I happened to notice that he would occasionally swing his head around. It was a motion something similar to this. Now, later on, I found out that those that have autism or different degrees of retardation are no different than us. They develop habits. Now, I don't know if it was a neurological thing with him, or he developed that habit. But every once in a while, he would just swing his head around like that. Well, he did it once, and the hot dog fell out of his hand. And something came over me, and I sat in my car, and I cried. And I always make reference, I cried like someone's grandmother. And I couldn't control myself, and I really had to pull myself together before my sister got into the car, because my sister, you know, she's my big sister, so if she saw me crying, she would immediately get upset too. But what came over me was, my God, this child can't even enjoy a hot dog. And there's so many of us that don't appreciate what it is that we are, what we have, what we do, and especially those that go about and create things that we don't particularly like. And at that moment, I decided I was going to go back to school and get my teaching degree. So I went back to school. I majored in education. I got my 3 certifications in early childhood, elementary, and special needs. And then when I received my, how can I put it, offer from the Newark Public Schools to teach traditional kindergarten, which is a special needs kindergarten, I accepted. And from there, I started teaching regular kindergarten. But that is how my path led me to teaching. And then after that, when I retired from practicing yoga for almost 20 years before that, before my retirement, I decided to become a yoga teacher. I got my certification and have been teaching now for almost 10 years. So I do wish to thank you for letting me speak to you. I hope it was insightful. I will say that I have been a bit nervous. I'm not used to talking in this way. Same thing happens when I give seminars at different companies. Sometimes it's a little easier for me to talk with children than it is to adults. So I thank you for your patience and your understanding. And before we start to take any questions, or as one of my college professors used to end his sessions with, he used to ask, are there any questions? And then when nobody said anything, he says, well, are there any answers? So before we get into that portion, I would just like to close at least this portion with the way I close my yoga classes. And this was taught to me when I trained in trauma therapy for, yoga therapy for trauma recovery. And do this at the end of every session, whether it's with the veterans, military personnel, or in my other yoga classes. But if you don't mind, let's bring our palms together in front of our chest. Let your thumbs rest on your sternum. Lift your heart towards your head and bow your head in honor of your heart. And see if this brings you to a place that feels like appreciation. And think of one thing in your life today that you are truly appreciative for, and acknowledge it silently. Now, may you always be happy. May you always be safe. May you always be healthy. And may you always be in a state of well-being. Namaste. Thank you all. And now, if you have any questions, and hopefully if you have any answers, I would appreciate that too.
Thank
Hello?
you, Mr.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Supriya, yes. You can ask.
So before
Hello.
before taking into few questions, so if the audience have got any answer, as Frank was suggesting, if anybody has got any point, you can put in the chat box, whether it is in Zoom or in YouTube. So before taking a few questions, let's hear some feedback from Apurva and Yashwini. Apurva and Yashwini.
Good evening to everyone. I am Apurva, first year student teacher from St. Charles College of Education. Optimism is not just a mindset, it's a behavior. Yes, I am very glad to share a feedback on this topic, creating a positive environment in classroom. Good evening, sir. This time is to be awesome is now. Thank you, sir, for your optimistic speech, and it inspires and motivates us. The good news is that a classroom climate does not just happen, it's created. We can foster effective learning and transform the experience of our students by following your valuable words. Thank you, sir. We assure you, sir, we notice and we reinforce the casual positive interactions with our students, and we nurture a positive relationship with all the students. Thank you, sir, for spending a precious time with us, and we are very proud to have you as a part of our program. And I thank Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University along with St. Charles College of Education and Talentees for jointly organizing the 7-day International Online Conference on High Impact Teachers for today and tomorrow. Once again, I thank you all. Have a positive day ahead.
Thank you so much. My appreciation to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Apurva. Can we hear from Yashwini? Yashwini? Sister, can I go ahead?
Yes, Praveen, you can go ahead. I don't find it here.
Yasmin Amanda is in line.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Frank. It was really a very insightful talk. And you are speaking on that PACE model, right? P for purpose, A for attention, C for confidence, and E for evaluation. So it's really insightful for us. And I really appreciate you because of we were able to get your accent because of some of us from Tamil Nadu and India. So really helpful for us to understand the each and every word that you told us. One of the scholars of education said this, like, we need to change our metaphors in education. So I think earlier stages, we used to have an industrial model or manufacturing model of education. But what we need to move towards is an agricultural model or organic model of education, like a farmer create conditions under which students will begin to flourish. I think that pace you were suggesting is the organic model that all of us have to bring into the classroom so that we create a condition for students to flourish. Thanks for that again, once more, that very, very insightful thought that you kept to us. And I'm very sure the audience also might have gained a lot of insight from your session. Let's go for a few.
Before you
Yashini. Sir, Yashini.
invite somebody else to talk, in addition to what you just said, I myself here in the United States, when I was growing up, it's what, when I went back to school to get my teaching degree, used to be referred to as the Prussian way of training good soldiers, which was basically sit down, shut up, and do as you're told. And from that mindset, and then going into education as a major, it was a total transformation. I mean, I knew that wasn't the way to teach. It was a great way to just have people to memorize what it is that you're trying to say, but doesn't incorporate any sort of creativity or a sense of feeling a more part of what they can truly be. So, you know, I just wanted to add that to what you had just said.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. So let us move towards getting some questions. So we don't find any questions in chat box. So Shiva Shakti ma'am, we can directly go from the panelist.
Yes, sir.
Praveen,
Sir,
Yashmi is online. We'll go with her.
Sister Sabina.
Yashmi is online.
Yashni, sir.
Yashmi is online.
Yashni.
Just
So Yashni, you can go ahead with your feedback for the session.
Thank you, sir. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. I'm happy to take part in the conference for building excellent relationships and networking for future and better teaching experience. The organization of the conference was amazing. The presentation was in a good scale and translucent. It was a well-organized online conference. It will be very beneficial and helpful for all the group of people to flourish and enhance knowledge. The content was shared in a systematic manner. It was really thought-provoking and better. Mr. Frank Riccio has generated lots of ideas on creating positive environment in classroom. It is very important to be more zealous through objectives and presenting. Since so much of negativity is ready to pull us back from our accomplishments, jostling us by the spring of rebuke, it is highly priority to maintain an awesome favorable environment. The great paths would mount anyone greatly, and Mr. Frank Riccio clearly explained it. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your session. Thank you for the opportunity given to me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Yashni. Thanks for that wonderful words. So before going into panelist discussion, we have got few questions that have come in a Zoom chat and plus YouTube.
May I interject something, if you don't mind? I apologize, but it's just that as I'm hearing others talk and things are coming to mind. I understand, if you don't mind. I understand that some of our teachers are teaching in areas where it's economically depressed. That's why I wish to emphasize that the area that I taught in Newark was an area such like that. Many of a great majority of the population of the community that I served were on government subsidies. And it was very easy for them to come into the mindset of victim, that I'm poor, this is what I'm going to be for the rest of my life, and this is what is going to be the life of my child. So it was for me to instill, especially in the parents, the value of education, to do, in fact, what I had imparted to all of you, that sense of positive, to focus on that which can be appreciated and to focus more on what you want as opposed to what is. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Frank, for that input from your side. So few questions we have got in the chat. So I'm colliding few questions together. And if you are able to answer, please. So there is a question here, is how to create a positive environment when working with special kids in an inclusive education. Following with a question, what is the best way to motivate the teachers and make them to adapt to that situation and start accepting these children? Yes, Frank.
Well, you have to look within yourself to find out, why am I working with these children? Why do I want to work with these children? If you're not seeing the potential in them, as opposed to there's a lot of pitfalls that you can stumble into when you're working with children in poor areas or children with special needs, and that's the bleeding heart syndrome. I found that during the course of my career, there were quite a few teachers that would only last for a year or two because they came in with this bleeding heart, all these poor children mentality, and that you don't last very long with that. So there's a need to first go within yourself. Meditation helps, and find out, what is my purpose? Why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? And then focus on what these children need and what you can do to give them that. Finding out what their potential is. When I was doing my student teaching work, I went into this facility, which at that time, the children were classified as severely and profoundly handicapped. Some of these children couldn't even move. Everything had to be done for them. And it would be very easy to look at them and say, well, what is their purpose? Why are they even alive? And there was this one girl, again, everything had to be done for her. She was legally blind and deaf, couldn't speak. And the teacher went over to her and just stroked her cheek, and that child's face lit up. I mean, it smiled that if you didn't smile along with that child and saw the beauty within that child, then you would really have to go back home and reflect on what you are. So it has to be where you find your purpose, and then you find what you can do to benefit these children. Because if you're questioning, why am I here? What am I doing? Then you don't need to be there. I hope that answered. If it did not, please ask me the question again, and I'll be maybe I'll be able to touch on points that maybe I did not.
Yeah, so I think you have answered the question that asked for, but I think a person who asked might have got. So I'm moving towards the next question. I think can you suggest some points on how to train slow learners in the classroom? One. The second one is related to it. How shall we develop mental health in adolescents? Yeah, these are the two questions.
Well, to help someone who's not proficient in a specific subject area, that's very broad because I don't know what a specific the specific teaching situation is. Now, if it's like here, let's say a special needs class, you might have as few as maybe 4 children in the classroom. When I taught, I had up to 22 children in my classroom. The teacher that posed that question might have more than that. So what I can say is it would have to take, first of all, take time. And do you have that time? Do you have the resources to instruct that child separately? Would you be able to spare the time after class? Break it down into more basics for that child. I don't know the subject area, and odds are that if you did say what the subject area is, I would not be an expert on it. So that's a very, very broad question. And unfortunately, I can't give a broad answer to it. Again, if the teacher can spend time before or after class, that would be of great help. If you could bring the parent in and instruct the parent on what they can do at home to help the child in that particular area. It may be across the board, but those are some of the things that I can offer. Because again, I don't know what materials are available in any particular classroom, so I apologize. I can't give a more specific answer than that. Oh,
Yes.
what I was able to do in my kindergarten class was to create learning centers. And although at times I would have the children pick their learning center, what they would start off with, because they would eventually have to go to each one, I would have, if it was a child that in one particular subject area was having difficulty, I would either myself or my teaching assistant would go to that table and work directly with them. Again, my scenario was different. It was kindergarten.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for that insightful input too. I'm moving to the next question. Here, this is age difference is like 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and 18-year-old. The question is, can you please suggest how to create a positive environment in senior secondary classes like 11th and 12th? So that's the age between 16 to 18, especially in the online classes during the pandemic, when they are so stressed with the screen time.
Basically high school students stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yes, spelled Y-E-A.
everything I just said, as far as with teachers and students, but it would be a good idea, because we found, well, I'm preaching to the choir here since yoga was founded in India, but in the United States, what they have found was that to bring time into the classroom for children to just sit quietly and just to not do anything. So, excuse me. It might be a good idea to incorporate that with those students, because they're old enough to be able to sit and be silent and to just focus on their breath and to just relax in that. And yes, this is a totally different situation. Children are spending more time in the house, sitting in front. If they didn't spend enough time behind a screen, they're certainly doing it now. So that might be a way of helping to ease it a bit. The answers, I don't know how much more clear cut beyond that they can be. Because you want them to be focused, they still have to learn the material. So giving them that time to just decompress and to just sit and breathe, I think would be helpful. Practicing some asanas, some physical activity, especially because yoga doesn't require a whole lot of room. Doing some asanas would be very, very good, especially for those, let's say, parents like here. They don't even want their children to go outside the house. They're so gripped by the fear of the virus that yoga could be done in a very small area. Just need the area that would be the size of a yoga mat. So I would say at least those two. How you're going to keep them focused on the screen? Well, do your work and make your lessons interesting.
Yeah. So there are a couple of questions have come in, but the nature of questions are similar. So I'm moving to one question that's little distinct. Students are disinterested in academics due to influence of media. So how yoga can help the students and how we can bring that yogic practice in the classroom setups?
Well, as I said before, much of what we see in the media, and unfortunately now too, it's permeated into social media, is negative. So that's kind of on the hands of parents to kind of wean their children a little bit away from that. However, again, as I stated before, yoga is a great relief from that because it connects the mind, it connects the body. There's nothing else. There's no need for any external stimulation, which is basically all media is, social media is. You find that when you look at it, it evokes emotion. And unfortunately, more times than not, it's a negative emotion. So with yoga, just that, again, that ability to just sit and breathe and focus on the breath and the asanas to work the body in ways that one of the beautiful sayings I ever heard about yoga is yoga makes the unknown known. So we are moving ourselves. We are focusing on those areas of our body that we normally don't, especially the fact that we're sitting more. Before it was bad enough. What do? We got up from our homes. We went into our vehicles or on a bus or a train and sat, and then got to where we needed to go, which was usually a very short walking distance. And then what did? We sat. But we at least had the time and the ability and the facilities to be more active, whether it was walking outside, the gym, what have you, activities, socializing. That's pretty much put a halt on that. So yoga, again, allows us to move in ways that we're starting to forget. So it brings that more focus between the mind and the body to make a mind that's more peaceful, more focused, and a body that's more easeful. And there's so many videos out there with yoga instruction. They could just pick the ones that are more apt to what is it that they want to do.
Yes, Frank, thank you so much for that explanation and input on yoga in the classrooms. In India, we have many schools adopting yoga, but gradually it has become like a kind of another exercise, whether it is karate or music class or kind of thing. It's just moving towards that. But what
Right. Well, here it's similar. I've taught children's yoga classes, and the vast majority of those children were either born in India or were born here of Indian parents, and same difference. My child can't come anymore because they have their instrument lesson, or they have a martial art lesson, or they have dance, or they have this or that. And they don't look at yoga, and I'm not picking on Indian parents, don't get me wrong, this is across the board. It's the same thing here. They don't, they're not finding the value of what yoga can offer. The good thing, unfortunately, the pandemic put put that on hold, but many of the school systems now here are starting to incorporate yoga into their curriculum. In fact, I work with an organization called the Newark Yoga Movement, and they teach, they have after school yoga classes, and more students are gravitated at, parents are gravitating more to that, because they see not only are their children getting some physical activity, but they see it's helping in their focus. So it's here as well as there. So I just always find it interesting that India, the birthplace of yoga, that it's not, you know, second nature in schools and in the homes. I always hear from my Indian parents, oh yeah, I used to do yoga in school when I was much younger, and then it's forgotten.
Thanks, Frank. We have got few panelists who wants to ask you some questions, so they will be directly asking you a few questions. Yes. Sure, Shakti ma'am?
Yes, sir. I added, sir. I added.
So anyone from the panelists who wants to ask? Yeah, Mr. Govind.
Happy evening to everyone, and Mr. Frank, very good evening. Very nicely presented. This is Ravi Govindaraj from Qatar.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Very nicely presented. Thank you so much. But that was my question. Someone has read my mind, and they've taken it yoga, because you said yes. There are many links are there where we can look at. But being an Indian, we need one section, one class, maybe for physical education or kind of thing. We need a master to stand there with the stick actually to go for it. So
I would think in India there's not a shortage of yoga masters.
There are plenty. Actually, Mr. Praveen Raj will agree with me, I believe. In a week, probably we are having 1 or 2 classes for which is allotted for the physical education. Probably yes, we can go ahead with that. But yoga, yes, it is. When you say that, no, I also know that those words are slapping me, because I am also yet to start. So, however, it was very nicely conducted. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Super.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Govind Raj. Anyone?
Yeah. Good evening. This is Abigail here.
Abigail, please go ahead.
Yeah. The presentation was well presented. I liked every part of it. But I'm from a different faith, and I don't agree to yoga being a remedy to be a teacher's positivity, creating a positive environment in a classroom. I believe in praying and meditating in the presence of God, and getting His word into me, and helping myself know that God is with me in all that I do, and move forward. I don't believe in emptying myself and then keeping myself empty for God to act in me. Rather, fill myself with His word. So, in which case, I was feeling yoga is not that practical when I go into a classroom. When there are many schools, of course, many educationalists are encouraging this. But I'm from an environment where we don't have this practice. And yet, we are able to create a positive environment through I don't believe in vibes. There are many who believe, and I'm not against those. We differ in our thoughts and ideologies, but coming to this, I believe if we are active and if we have this teacher passion in us, as our speaker said, Frank said, and move forward with that positivity and passion, then I don't think yoga is needed in the class, but then you will move as a positive teacher and you will create that positivity in your students in the class, whether it be a kindergarten child or a senior child. And all the negativity in the child will be removed automatically when they come in contact with you, the teacher who's positive. And I don't know whether I'm putting myself right, but this is what I feel. You can go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
No. There's no reason. There's no reason to be sorry whatsoever. As I stated when I first began my discussion, is that what I'm saying is not an end all. It's not what I believe to be. That's it. It's definite. Follow this and only this. It's just a roadmap to assist. But that's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of the way the world is. The diversity and the contrast of ideas. And that's why I said before about the mastermind. It's not always about people that just totally agree with us, because I know for a fact that I would not want the world to be filled with people who are exactly like me. We don't want to be around people who just look like us, talk like us, think like us, act like us. I believe that the way we expand, the way we grow, is by being amongst people who can give us new ideas, that diversity, that contrast of ideas and concepts, as you just imparted to us. Perfectly fine if you feel as though, or anybody else feels as though, well, maybe for me, yoga is not the way to go. And that's perfectly fine, because if it doesn't feel right, it's going to show in how you impart it, in how you and how you are teaching. But again, let's be clear on something. Yoga is not a religion. If you are to look into the Yoga Sutras, it never, ever, ever, ever talks about God. Patanjali never mentions that. What he does is just gives a path, a roadmap on how to conduct oneself. So that is pretty much my feeling about it. Again, beautiful when somebody comes up with a different idea, and we could either say, yes, this is something that I feel as though would work for me, and or no, it just doesn't feel right. So thank you for that. And you never ever have to be sorry for what you believe or what you feel as though would be most advantageous in how you conduct your classroom. It's just the idea of being open to other ideas.
Thanks,
I'm
Frank.
sorry for that lengthy. I'm sorry for that lengthy response.
Oh, so that's what
my wife is my worst critic in that respect. She, when I start going into my stories and I find her like starting to look at her phone or look up at the ceiling or the skies, I know that's when I should have cut my story a little bit shorter and gave her the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah. Thanks, Frank. That's very well put forward. So yoga is not a religion. It's a way one approaches takes. So everybody has got their own way to approach life and go ahead in life. So therefore,
right. and to add to that that one young lady's point, when she said about emptying out the mind, we don't empty out the mind. We just create a place in the mind that's easeful. That's what meditation does. It's not emptying out the mind and trying to bring something else in. I can go into my own beliefs about God and what have you, but that's not what this discussion is about. So I just wanted to be a little bit more clear on that. So
just to add to Frank's point, so that yoga word comes from called yuj, so definitely mean that's union of mind and body. So it's not a religion, it's a philosophy. Yeah, thanks, Frank. So let's get a few more questions from the panel.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, Vimala here.
Yes, Vimala.
Sir, today in this world, we are very informative. We want to know things. Even when we go to classrooms and all, children wanted to know information. Even my niece, who is UKG, she wants to know many information. She wants to know things and all. So we are in the informative world. How can yoga give us the informative diet? Like we have diet, balanced diet like that. How can yoga give us the informative diet? Can you give some suggestions like that?
On diet information, basically like a recipe.
I'm not a dietitian. I may not be the best source for that.
Related to yoga.
But related to yoga, most people that practice yoga are vegetarians, and some are vegans. But the bottom line is this: if you're eating foods that make you feel heavy, that slow your digestion down, that make you sleepy, that don't give you that energy, and I'm not talking about that double shot of espresso at Starbucks. I'm talking about that gives you just that natural sense of vitality. Then those are foods to avoid. Again, I'm not a dietitian, but I do know that to focus more on foods that are easily digestible. My teacher, Swami Satchidananda, used to always say that any food that you need to drink something with, you shouldn't be eating, because the food itself should give you that natural moisture to be able to swallow it. I'm trying to think, because he imparted so many things. He also said that digestion should happen in the mouth, meaning that to really, really, really chew the food before you swallow it. This will make for easy assimilation of the nutrients of it, easy for your body to pass it. As far as specific foods, I have to be general on that because I don't know what people's health issues are. I don't know what they're lacking in supplementation or vitamins or nutrients. So that's something that they need to explore specifically. But again, If it's foods that, again, create drowsiness, a sense of heaviness. I'm not endorsing vegetarian or anything like that because, again, due to people's health needs, they might need to eat poultry or fish or meat. So it's something that needs to be focused on an individual basis. But those few guidelines, again, make sure it's foods that help you to feel light, that feel vitality and energy, and foods that you don't have to keep on drinking something in order to get them down.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I was in mute. Thanks, Frank. So can we get a couple of questions more?
Yeah, thank you. This is Bala Murugan from Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University. I thank the resource person and all the organizers for a wonderful session today. I want to give us some more clarification regarding the views from Sister Abhi Gali. I think something he got that. Yoga is apart from the religion. It doesn't mean that it is a religion based. Yoga, it may be, you can be adapted or not. This is apart from the religion. As a teacher, we cannot reveal at any time these kind of religious-based views, because the students from in country like India, we have a collection of students. They are from different religion, different background, different economical status, different class, different language. So teachers should be apart from all these religious colors and their personal views. So classroom is a place where we have to be very conscious. As a teacher, we should know the decorum, how to deal the students. So views from the Frank, that he only said that from his experience, what he had from yoga only, he has adjudicated that it will be a better one for mind and body. Especially we know that yoga is a very good meditation. It is not a mandatory one. Depend on the teacher, we can go for it. Otherwise, we can go for the alternative way. So a teacher should not reveal at any time, any point of course. He should be away from all those religious, personal, language-based, caste-based, then what are maybe the creed and crash. So the teacher should know how to behave, how to deal with the students in particular, with students in classrooms. So I endorse the views with Frank. He said very clearly that according from his own experience, he is telling that to put a peaceful mind, it is very, very useful, but it is not mandatory. I think that is what I want to add some more clarification regarding this. So teachers, we do not reveal, because the teachers cannot be a biased one. So we should be common for all the students for collection. They are different places, different background. So we should be a common. We should be very unbiased one. That is the thing we have to do that. It is not mandatory, but we can go for any alternative. But as a teacher, being a teacher, just we can expressing this kind of views will put under our image as well as our personality. So these kind of things we have to be do away in this public forum as well as in the classroom itself. As a teacher, we should be very conscious and very careful regarding our views and the things we are delivering to our students. One more question, just I want to clarify with Frank is regarding the slow learners. What kind of the ways and means for training them to cope up with the other students in par with? That is what I want to ask my question.
So the question, Frank,
slow learners.
So how to make the slow learners to catch up with the normal learners? That's the question.
Well, I touched upon that in a question before. Again, not knowing specific teaching environments or where the classrooms are. The best way to do it is to bring the parents in, to get them involved, to give supplemental help. Perhaps if the child could come in a bit early or stay a bit late after class to help. To maybe break down the subject matter into easier digestible segments instead of the concept being how could I put this? Instead of trying to get the child to digest this, the whole of what you're trying to teach at one time. This is the only thing that I, at this point, that I could really offer when it comes to that, because in the environments that I taught, when I first started, when I was teaching special needs, I was able to formulate, although I had individual learning plans for each child, I was able to incorporate that into what I would be teaching them in the classroom. It's not so much the same thing when you're teaching regular ed. You don't have those individual plans. You don't sit down with a child study team and focus on specifically what the child's weakness is or what have you. But it's very good to, and I understand if there's a large enrollment, it's difficult to do what I'm going to suggest. But to know the students, know that what they are dealing with. Why is it the way it is? Is it because the child is coming in tired? Is it because the child hasn't eaten properly? Maybe it's a disruptive. It's a disruptive home environment. There could be so many things that are working against the child, not just the fact that the child may not be proficient in that subject area, or that the child is a so-called slow learner. But again, trying to create supplemental help in the form of maybe different homework than you are giving the rest of the class, so that this way the child doesn't become frustrated. See, I had the luxury when I was teaching kindergarten, again, of having learning centers, and I had a teaching assistant, and I had maybe up to 22 children. Well, if you break the class up into 5 learning centers, what does that average out to? About 5 children a learning center. And that's very easy to focus on each individual child as you move from learning center to learning center, and then a teaching assistant. Many of us don't have that luxury.
I also want to add to what Bala was asking is kind of a learning style of the child. There's a different types of learning style a child could learn. Maybe identify what is best for that child and help the child to use that style to kind of learn. Maybe some children can learn on the field, some can learn through art, some can learn through reading or sound or music. It's a different kind of thing.
Usually children are broken up into two groups. There are auditory learners and visual learners. I've always been a visual learner. So incorporate that. Maybe just lecturing, talking. It just goes right over the child's head. I know for myself that when I'm in a seminar or what have you, It doesn't take long for me to start thinking about, I mean, a good joke I like to use is the presenter is talking, and all of a sudden my mind goes to, you know, I really do like vanilla ice cream better than chocolate. You know, and it could be, oh, Lord only knows what the presenter is talking. So I need visuals. That's how yoga has helped me to focus and concentrate. So it's good to know what it is that's going to incite learning in that child. Are they auditory? Are they visual? This might be common knowledge to you as educators, but sometimes we just don't apply it. So that might be an area to investigate.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for answering all our questions. We are way past our schedule, so I think I can call Mrs. Punita Nancy to propose the word of thanks. Punita, over to you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
So can we take the last question or?
Yes, sir. I have one question.
So, okay. So
good evening.
Last question. So we'll close with Ajay Kumar. Yes, Ajay Kumar.
Good evening, Mr. Frank. I'm Ajay Kumar from Hyderabad, Telangana state. I have a query with regard to before pandemic, we used to have space learning where we used to take the dull students and make them doing some activity, and we used to make interactive. But during this pandemic thing, we are going for online classes. So how to make these dull students active, especially? Can you light some tips and cues regarding the online classes, making them the dull students interactive?
I mean, what do you mean by dull students? Is again the students who are weak and slow learners. That's exactly. And how can we, and especially during online classes, how to help them is asking.
That's an area that it's kind of difficult for me to answer. I don't have much experience with online learning. Again, I've been retired. Excuse me for making excuses. I've been retired for about 10 years now, and everything I did was physically in the classroom. We didn't have the advantage of online resources. It was very, very slow bringing computers and online learning and resources into the school district I was in. As far as trying to initiate more interest in learning during this time, when students are having to spend more time in front of a computer, in front of a screen. You don't, I know I could go on about, I don't want it to fall into that negative about everything that you don't have, as opposed to when you're in the classroom. But when you give your lessons, it may be a good idea to also give those, give tools to the parents and the students, basically, that if there's physical things that they could use to help them in teaching, in learning the subject matter that you are imparting, then do that.
I'd just like to add something.
Sure.
So Ajay, there are a lot of tools available today online, which are free tools, like for example, Khan Academy is one. So teachers could use such free tools to assign assignments, to these slow learners or other weak students and make them accountable for those assignments, because they spend a lot of time online. So teachers can help them create accounts, and they could put assignments over there, and they can get points while fulfilling those while they do those assignments, and they get those points, and it could be a kind of an encouragement for the child to learn better and improve. The other thing also, they could also go, if they are in, for example, in grade 5 or for example, if they are in grade 5, children can go and take grade 4 lessons and learn, to kind of catch up and improve on that, and then come back to speed in grade 5, and they could learn in their own pace. So those kind of tools are available. Many free tools are available on the internet. So that's what I would like to kind of add.
And the thing about what Pradeep just said is, because it's online, it's only privy to that one student. So what I found when I used to try to incorporate reward systems in my classroom is that I was doing it mainly because of those children that were exhibiting inappropriate behaviors, or those children that weren't proficient in specific areas. But the problem is that what happens is that the other students that are behaving in the appropriate ways are learning at the pace that you would like. They saw the rewards. So it's like, wait a minute, I'm doing all these right things, but I'm not getting anything. They're just doing so-and-so or just enough, and they're getting all the rewards. So maybe if I stop learning or act out, I'll get some of that. So, I had to spread it across the board so that everybody would get rewards proportionately. But as Pradeep was saying, because the child is isolated to their own learning experience when they're in front of their screen, a reward system is an excellent vehicle for promoting better learning.
Also, I think I've heard this question almost 3 people ask, about slow learners, dull student, weak student. I would like to ask back to the teacher community, if one of you can answer, what would you do if you're coming across, right? What is your suggestion? Because when I studied, I was also a very dull student. I was a very weak student in school. And one teacher came up to me, to my mother, when she had come for the parent-teacher conference. One teacher came up to my mother and said, I would like to, take the student under my wings and kind of teach him. And he told my mother to bring him home for tuitions, the evenings. And it was not like a tuition for me, but it was more like an interactive session with that teacher. And that motivated me completely when I was in 8th grade. And from that time onwards, I really did well. So I think more than actually teaching the subject, I think that personal interaction with the teacher had with me really elevated me.
Right.
What he said kind of elevated me and, kind of put me in the right path. So I think the question all of us to ask as teachers is that, what can I do specifically for that particular child in my classroom?
Now what I did was, and Pradeep happened to mention it when he was giving my introduction, was that I created a free after-school tutorial class / program for kindergarten children. And I invited those children that were either not learning because of possible learning disabilities or behavioral issues or whatever the case may be. And they would stay with me for about an hour or so after class. And I did this for free, just to help those children to be more proficient. And it was without their classmates. So they weren't seeing their classmates that were moving on ahead of them, which can really, really evoke in them a feeling of less than. You know, children are, I don't care what age, they're very perceptive. And if they see that someone else is moving along, they're getting all the congratulations, beautiful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here they are, like, wrong, try it again, kind of pattern. Being in that kind of environment, being away from everyone else. Now, I hope that in my class, I never did that. I made sure that I celebrated the slightest little accomplishment in any child. Didn't make a difference how immense or how small, but with that after school, they were able to feel less vulnerable.
As even Praveen was saying, we need to move from manufacturing to farming to focus on that child, which is a slow learning child. And I can give an example. One of the classes in my in the school, the previous day night, evening, the teacher had converted the whole classroom like a space when she was going to talk about that particular subject about space in the science class. She just created a visual kind of an effect. So, and an audio visual kind of an effect was created. Of course, it's quite a little challenging in an Indian situation or in a situation where you have low budgets, but some way or the other, the teacher could make it more interesting and more personal to appeal to every child. Sorry, Praveen.
Thanks, Frank, and thanks, Pradeep. I know there's a lot to share with, because of you have got that much experience, and I know there are a lot of questions have come from from Zoom, but I apologize to all the all persons who put the questions there. I will not be able to take further any questions, but I am sure the organizing committee will take all that questions and forward to Frank, so that we'll be able to answer to those questions already being asked. So without much delay, I call Ms. Punita Nancy to propose the word of thanks.
Thank you, Praveen. The students may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Indeed, it is an honor and great privilege for me to present the vote of thanks at the third day of the International Online Conference on High Impact Teachers for today and tomorrow, jointly organized by Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai, St. Charles College of Education, Madurai, and Talentees, India and USA. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Chief Patron, Professor Panjanatham, Vice Chancellor, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, for organizing this interesting and useful conference for our teachers and educators at these challenging times. Warm and grateful thanks to the patrons, Dr. Sister Amalie, Provincial, Sisters of St. Charles, Borromeo, Mr. Pradeep Anthony, Talentees, USA, co-patrons, Professor B. Balakrishnan, Sister Sabina Jose, Mr. Leo Fernandez, conveners, Professor M. Govindan, Sister Catherine, and Ms. Ramona Vishwanathan. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our organizing secretary, Dr. Shivashakti, because of whom this online conference has been possible, and organizing secretary, Dr. A. Vayadurai, principal, St. Charles College of Education, who has been a great secretary, Ms. Angel De Silva, and all other technicians and assistants who gave a great support in organizing this conference. I sincerely thank our today's resource person, Mr. Frank Riccio, for your highly impactful and talk on creating a positive environment in the classroom. Sir, you have given us much confidence to become a reason for the students to have a positive environment in the classroom. The world has been looking forward to the outcome of this milestone event. Thank you once again, sir. Last but not the least, thank you, dear teachers, educators, scholars, and students for your wonderful participation. I am sure that you have greatly benefited from today's program. Once again, I would like to repeat that the students may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you, one and all, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Punita, with the last beautiful words. Thank you so much. And a quick reminder on tomorrow's program. The discussion will be on the interesting topic, critical pedagogy and reframing analytical consciousness for info age by Reverend Dr. Sebastian SDB from Rome, starting at 4:30 p.m. So please don't miss it. Thank you once again from the organizing committee, and of course, the in charge of all who worked from behind the scene. Once again, thanks. And Frank, we are very humble, you are very insightful, and you are very patient listening. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Pradeep, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Praveen,
Frank.
sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
thank you so
Sabina,
much.
Jose.
Thank you.
Thank you, all the panelists.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank
thank-
you, all the participants. Thank you.
Thanks, Shivashakti ma'am. Thanks, Sister Sabina.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Alisha. Thanks, Punita. Thanks, Vayadurai, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Ramona.
Not at all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sister
Thank
Mary
you. Thank you.
Catherine. Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Govindraj. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, I become a fan to Miss
Thank
Punita Nancy for the last word, what she said. It is not what we teach, it is how we teach. Superb, yeah. Thank you so much. Mr. Frank, superb. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so
And
much.
Vayabri sir, Sabina madam, all of you, thank you very much. Nicely, the master of ceremony is awesome today. Praveen Raj, nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, shall I wind up the session?